All right, so let's look at section 2.2, exercise 4. So this is looking at limits when we're looking at a picture of a function. So here's the picture of our function right here. I've already drawn. And then there's several parts to this question. So let's see. First part says, find the limit as x approaches 0 of f of x. Okay. And I guess I didn't label it, but we can just say that this red function is f of x. Okay, so f of x. Okay. Okay, so part A is sort of just like a warm-up, because if you're looking at the limit as x approaches 0, so the x-axis has value 0, then that just means the first thing you do when you look for limits is you look at on your function, is that function defined at the point that you care about at x equals 0, and in this case it is. So as x goes along, when you reach x equals 0, the function is just defined. F of 0 is equal to 3. And so we actually don't have to do any tricks. It's just the answer is 3. Just write in parentheses f of 0 equals 3. Okay, so that's not too bad. Okay, so now let's look at something a little bit trickier. So now part B says, what's the limit as x approaches 3, but from the left? So 3 with a minus sign of f of x equals what? Okay, so let's see here. So let's look at our picture. So remember, it's always good to sort of visualize, sort of animate it in your mind what's going on. So x approaches 3 from the left. That means we want to look at the x value of 3, but we want to come from the left. So that means we sort of ride along this curve, and we see what happens as we approach 3. And we want to go up to it, but we don't want to actually reach x equals 3. We want to just sort of see what happens as we approach x equals 3. And the trajectory of my little pin here looks like we're going up to y equals 4 as we go up here. So this is pretty much all you do. You just sort of follow it from the left, see where it goes up to 4. So if you're going from the left, the height of the function when you reach x equals 3, the height of the function is about 4. So that's what the answer is. So from the left. From the left. Okay. And then of course, now we want to look at it. The next question is, what's the limit from the right? Okay. So now it's the same exact thing, except there's a plus sign on the 3, and that means that we're coming from the other direction. We're coming from the right. Okay, so if we're coming from the right and we're writing along this red function, as x goes to 3, the y value gets close to, looks like height 2. So as we get close here, where this little circle is, that's at height 2, so that's interpreted as the limit from the right is 2, and for the same reason. Okay. Now let's see, part D. Now says what happens when we combine these two things. So part D says, what's the limit as x approaches 3 without any decorations on it? Just when it approaches 3, just as it is. So remember, if you see a limit that just asks for the limit as x approaches a number without any pluses or minuses above it, like here and here, that just means it's the limit from both directions. It's the limit from all directions. So let's see what happens. So if we're approaching 3 from the left, we just saw that the y value goes to 4. But if we're approaching from the right, the y value only goes up to 2. And that's sort of a red flag, you might say, because in order for a limit to exist, it has to exist and the limit has to go to the same exact height no matter which way you come from. So basically, if we're saying the limit as x approaches 3, that should be the limit if you go from the left or from the right. No matter where you go, it should equal the same thing. But since the limit from the left is 4 and the limit from the right is 2, they're not the same. That means that the overall limit actually doesn't exist because it can't reach an agreement on where it goes. From the left, the people coming from the left say, oh, the limit's 4. The people coming from the right say, actually the limit's 2. If these two sides can't agree, then that means there is no overall limit. So everybody has to agree in order for the limit to exist. And since they don't agree, we say it does not exist. Does not exist. And so the reason is left and right don't match. Left is not equal to right. Okay? And then finally, so we see this little red dot here we haven't even sort of talked about. Well, that's what part E asks us to look at. Part E just says, what's f of 3? Okay? So f of 3, that just means if you don't have to worry about which way you approach it, you just say plug in x equals 3 and what is the height of your function at x equals 3. And the way that we denote that is we look at where the function's colored in at x equals 3, looks like it's colored in at height 3. Okay, so since up here this is an open circle and down here is also an open circle, that means that the function is not defined at that point. So instead we look for the closed circle, there can only be one, and that's right here at 3. So f of 3 is equal to 3. And that's the end of that problem.